in addition to teaching and, you know, doing family life things. Wow.
And my kids, even to this day, say to me, you know, they used to say, don't ever study any more wine. They just remember coming, asking where their dinner was. And I'm like, it's over there in the fridge. You know, it was kind of robotic, but it was just, I really look back and I'm so happy I did it. But, you know, that shows a lot about team spirit. You know, if it wasn't for Catherine, you know, and Chef Gallagher, you know, doing it and not coercing me to do it, but, you know, motivating me to do it. And we would chat about it. I think that's why I was successful. I definitely would have not been successful if I hadn't had somebody holding my hand and pushing me and motivating me through some very dark times. People go, oh, wine, how easy. And you're like, oh, you want to learn every village in Burgundy.
You know, there's a lot of
good luck with that.
Yeah. That's very impressive. And I'm also, you know, inspired by that too, because you can always still be learning information. Like you are a professor at this time and you're still, you know, you were still pursuing education and you know, adding on. So I think that's a life lesson that you should always be learning.
I totally agree. And I learn so much, you know, all the time I'm learning, you know. It's a perpetual motion.
Agreed. It's gotta keep it moving.
Oh yeah, totally.
So that's a great segue to the now phase of life that I want to talk about. So keeping it moving into now, we know that like 2020 has brought lots of challenges, and it's been very unique in that there's one thing in particular that has affected almost everyone, and that's COVID-19. And so I'm just wondering, like, career-wise, you know, professor-wise, what has that been like for you? How has COVID-19 affected your work as a professor?
As my work as a professor, it has changed it profoundly. I think that, you know, we were in spring trimester. We were teaching for 1 week, and we were told, the whole country, of course, you know, was in trouble, and we were told to go home and to teach online. So literally, you know, overnight, we had to figure it out very, very quickly how to teach. I mean, everybody had to teach, but how to teach beverage online. We had a dilemma. We have students that are not 21. We had students that were over 21, but no money, that, you know, no sort of disposable income to buy wine. We had students that were over 21 that maybe could get some wine. So there were so many configurations in the classroom. So, you know, apart from having to tear up the manual of how to teach and basically go back to the drawing board, you know, I just tried to come up with creative ways, and it was, some of them were just horrendous, you know, and some of them
like
actually
work. We can't do that again.
And some of them were absolutely, you know, the students were like, oh, that was great, you know. So I was mixing cocktails in my kitchen, I was doing wine tastings in my driveway, and then my neighbor would suddenly start cutting the grass, you know, and then the neighbors' kids would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now, I could have done it in the house, but I had children in the house, like my daughter was in the house studying. So it was, you know, it was just trial and error. The one thing I will say, which made me keep going and keep changing and keep trying, was I did not have any students who said, I can't do this. This is just ridiculous. It's too hard. Every single student I taught passed. Now, maybe they didn't pass as well as they'd hoped, but they passed.
But
you know, they knuckled down, they did their work, they participated. You know, and it was really nice, because what we're doing now, we were chatting, you know, on Zoom. We were talking about things that probably weren't even related to the classroom, because a lot of the students were scared. You know, these were young people with maybe away from their family, or maybe family members had been affected. So I actually, you know, found it a very very emotional time, because I wasn't just a teacher. I would talk to them about many other different things.
Yes.
I gave them my cell phone number, you know, which is no problem. I gave it them this term as well. I'm very private. I don't give my cell phone, but the last 2 terms I have. And I said, you text me anytime. And my little phone was pinging at night, pinging here. Oh, my mum and I are here. We're buying some wine, you know, and it was lovely.
Wow.
I did find dark moments sometimes, and it wasn't so much what I found. Work was not the dark moment. I found that sometimes being away from my family, my mom, you know, my daughter was in London in lockdown with my mother in the middle of nowhere, and so it was just like everybody in the planet. Yeah. It's been a very
the unknown was happening, and and even to this point, we're still like, I think we have moved forward in some ways, but there's still so much unknown, and we don't even know if what we're doing now is problematic, or you know, it's very uncertain, very, very uncertain.
It is. I mean, even now we are doing face-to-face classes, but we have split the classes, so the classes are tiny, you know. So I feel like I don't have my mask on, because I always have my mask on in the building, but there's nobody here. I'm probably the only couple of people are here at the moment. But the you know, so we only have 6 students in a very big room, all wearing masks, plastic partitions, but we do still let them taste, you know, mask down, sit, mask up, mask down, spit, you know, and it's working.
It's working. That's wonderful. That's something I really wanted to kind of, you know, get a feel for. And thank you for, you know, being honest about what worked and what didn't work. And
things did not work and things did.
Yes. And then, so how about for you? Like, how are you managing this time?
You mean in the classroom, or just in general?
In general, you know, how is Sarah Malik managing this time?
You know, I think that I just have to keep saying, you know, I'm fortunate because I work, you know, I'm fortunate because I have a roof over my head, and I'm fortunate because I can drive a car and I have food. And I know a lot of people in Charlotte, that's not the case. Right. And I know that is probably a little bit of a driving force for me to stop feeling sorry for myself.
The attitude of gratitude.
Exactly. Just keep positive. Even today, I was really had a bit, you know, you wake up, you're a little, you know, and I came to school and I look at the students and I think, okay, they don't need a miserable person, you know, so I have to snap out of it. As soon as I walk through the door, no matter how I feel inside, I have to make sure that does not come across to the students. I mean, they know I get a bit snippy with them sometimes, but that's because they don't do the work. But it's, you know, I don't get snippy with them just because I'm in a bad mood. But, you know, and so I'm doing fine, and I'm positive. Of course, in the back of my mind, I worry about everybody and his grandmother. You know, it's just it's very emotional time, and I'm just, you know, hoping and praying that, you know, this will improve sooner rather than later.
I agree. I feel the same way as well. And with everything that you shared so far, which has just been so amazing to hear. I mean, it also shows how many layers, you know, because like, again, I met you as just, you know, Professor Malik. And so as a student, like, I'm just thinking about you, my professor, but not, you know, now that I'm more mature, but now, you know, factoring in that you lived so much life and had done so much prior to, you know, becoming an instructor. When you think about your career and everything that you have done, would you say that you are where you wanted to be? Like, how do you feel that where you're at is a place that you actually thought you would be at today?
I don't think I probably would have thought I'd got into teaching. I think I would have probably, I mean, a couple of my friends are still, you know, running hotels and doing, you know, a beautiful job, but their lives haven't changed. Even though they've got married and had kids, they're still doing incredibly long hours and incredibly stressful, and they're never really off the clock because they're general managers. I am happy where I feel like where I've got to now is a good place. You know, I do feel there's more room for growth. I don't feel that at my age, you know, I have to say, well, I'm a teacher, I'm just going to do this until I'm retired. No, I do. There's a couple of things that I would still like to try and do. I still, you know, I do enjoy, doing more education, but maybe branching out a little bit. Like I obviously spend a lot of my working day with students, but I do enjoy, educating people who are not necessarily at university. So I do teach some certifications, and, I do those little videos that, and most of those videos were literally a mistake because I was making them for the students, and then the students were like, hey, put those up on YouTube. And I was like, what is YouTube? What is Instagram? And so, it was the students like telling me to get them up there and get some followers. So, and I've really enjoyed that. And so I've had a lot of feedback from people saying, keep putting them up because, it's a really fun thing to watch. We learn about wine. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll keep doing them. But, it's so just like you, by doing these interviews, you don't realize how impactful they can be. Just spending a few minutes, just filming things, and people really do enjoy watching them.
So where can people find these incredible videos which you are providing?
In my driveway. Well, most of the time I put them on Instagram, Wine Queen.
And your Instagram handle is Wine Queen, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's lowercase Wine Queen, I think. Because my daughter did it for me. But
this is what you need to do. Let me set you up.
Yes, exactly. She gave me the title. I didn't give it myself. And then, so that's sort of where I post most of them. And, they just naturally default into Facebook. And I really have to be in the mood to do them. Like some people go, well, where's your video this week? And I'm like, okay, I have to do groceries, laundry. I have to do this, this, and this. I have to be in the kind of zone to do them, But I try and do them once every couple of weeks.
Okay. I love that. And that's a passion of yours and you enjoy it. And I totally celebrate you for doing that. And I'm one of those people that is watching them too.
Oh, thank you so much.
So is there anything else that like you want to do as well? Or you feel like for right now, that's really kind of where you want to put your focus? Is there another pot or, that you want to dabble in?
I think down the road there probably will be. But at the moment, I think my daughter, I've got my younger daughter, she's just got 2.5, 3 years more in college, just to be stable for her, not uproot her or anything, is a good thing. But I'm up, sometimes life takes a strange turn and you end up doing things, like Switzerland. I would have never gone there if I hadn't just been sent there to do some training. So sometimes you just meet people and, I have never technically applied for a job ever. I always got jobs because I knew somebody or somebody asked me, and it really is who you know, not what you know sometimes. I don't think I'd know how to apply for a job, because it literally is, hey, so-and-so needs somebody, reaching out to people. I had good relationships with Johnson & Wales, so it was really nice to be able to reach out and say, if ever you need any teachers, down the road, I'd be happy to get back into it. I don't think you don't get if you don't ask. And sometimes people get a bit nervous about asking, but, there's nothing wrong with that, being cheeky.
You're absolutely right. And I'm going to take that advice because there are a few things that I want to be able to do with Pineapple Talks. And so I'm going to, take your advice and stay focused and start doing some more asking as well.
I think that's a great idea.
So I'm going to close very shortly, but there was just another question I wanted to ask, and it's kind of back to the then phase of your life. And there was a period of time where you were technically the first lady of the Johnson & Wales Charlotte campus. So would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about what that was like balancing, your role as a professor, but then at one time, your husband was the dean of the Charlotte campus, and then he became the president of the Charlotte campus. And so what was that like? What was that like for you?
I think back then, to be honest, I did take a sort of first lady role, if you like. I think that I really didn't, I did help in some ways, of course, but I really it was quite surprising. A lot of people didn't put two and two together. You know, in Johnson Wales, there are a lot of husbands and wives that work together, and sometimes students don't kind of click. So it was okay. I mean, I did some things, you know, I certainly helped, you know, did some events and things like that. But I certainly took more of a back seat, I believe. And I think what I did do was just make sure that I worked, you know, extra hard. It's always hard when somebody, you know, you are related to perhaps is your ultimate boss at the time. And so I think I had to just work harder and just be above reproach. It was always kind of, you know, important for me to do that. It was not difficult. It wasn't difficult at all, no. And but I did. My number one job was to be a professor and to teach, and that was what I spent probably 99%.
Phenomenal at that, because I remember for a period of time I didn't know either. Because I think at the time you were Professor Jackson, like you hadn't.
That's right. I had my maiden name, didn't I? That's right.
Yes. And so, and then I think later I realized that, but then it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a thing, but it was just, I just thought you did great.
Thank you.
With managing that. And what kind of also made me want to ask that is just, you know, we see so many times women have identities, but then they're also married to someone who has a very strong, dominant role. And not that they're dominant or strong, but they're the role that they have. And so I just think you did such a great job with still being you. And like you said, like your job was to be here to be a professor, and you did that. And there was no distractions or any.
No.
Yeah, and I thought that you did so great. So
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I am going to be mindful of your time, and maybe we can do this again sometime soon. But
absolutely, I'd be more than happy to.
Yay. I thank you for that, because I will definitely reach back out to you. So yes, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insight, your perspectives, your life's history in hospitality and food and beverages. And before we go, what's just maybe one thing you would want to say to students that maybe they could benefit from hearing right now from a professor to a student? What's, you know, a piece of advice you would give them?
Well, I think one thing is not necessarily looking at me, but is looking at you. I mean, look at you. I mean, you are so beautiful and poised and confident. And I do remember you. I remember you so vividly. I remember most of my students. I mean, they sometimes say to me, you know, they'll send me an email, "Oh, hi, this is Cherise. I'm in your, you know, 9 o'clock class." And I'm like, "Yes, I know. I see you 4 times a week, you know, 11 weeks." I always remember students. And I think when I look at, you know, alumni like you that have just got so much, you know, confidence to be, I couldn't do what you're doing today. I mean, this is like very nerve-wracking for me. I wouldn't even know how to ask questions. You're doing such a great job. So I think what students have got to take away from this is, you know, when you're a student, but then once that ends, it's like the teachers are pushing you off a cliff and saying, "Okay, good luck." And then you just blossom and you bloom and you just develop. And, you know, and that is what makes our job worthwhile, when we see you years on and you're just like fabulous, and that's what makes us happy.
Yes. Well, that's a beautiful closing. Thank you so very much, Professor Malik, and I wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch very, very soon. And thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you so much.
My Talks guest. My pleasure. So I will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.